Having trouble getting in today.
Evening. So first things first, have we got that horrible echo?
Hello.
Where's the echo from me?
No, I'm saying have we got it? I couldn't hear it last week.
No, the echo's gone.
Oh, good, because I haven't got my headphones in.
No, I think the echo's still there.
Hello?
Hello?
No, I heard it when I said wait. I heard it before, but it seems to have gone now.
You only hear it when you say the echo's gone.
Probably, yeah. Can you hear me okay? Because I'm on my phone again, and last time I did this on my phone, it sounded a bit muffled on the recording.
I can hear you fine this time.
Yeah. It must have been. I probably didn't have it near enough to my mouth. That was probably what it was.
Yeah. How can you hear everyone, Joe? Is there any echo? Is there any problem? Because I have got my headphones here, but my phone isn't fully charged. That's all. So if we can get away with it, I will.
Yeah, you'd be better off keeping it charging up if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not getting an echo now, so.
Okay, cool. You sound fine. Jennifer's usually the one to go with.
It's bad enough for people to hear us once, isn't it, without hearing everything twice?
Yeah, that's it. It's really frustrating when there's an echo, though, because you're like interrupting yourself and you can't even finish your own sentence. So it does become quite like on your mind. So no, I don't want that.
Yeah, I had to do a TV thing once when it was like that, and they couldn't get rid of it, and it was absolutely horrendous because you start saying something and then you start hearing yourself saying it.
Yeah. I can't remember which show it was now. It wasn't too long before I joined the Vegan Of Course Discord, but I was doing a YouTube show with someone that got cancelled in the end because we had a feedback loop that we just could not fix. No matter how many times that I left and rejoined, it kept coming back.
That's usually when somebody's using more than one device. And
that's what it seemed to be in the end, that someone else had it loaded up in the back room or whatever, and we were trying to work it out between us, and it was actually coming from an external device,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can get that with StreamYard. I can get this kind of really weird kind of psychedelic effect going on.
Yeah, that's pretty much what was happening to us, yes. But, there's a few people joining now. So I suppose happy late Vegan Day, everyone, and the start of World Vegan Month, but also a belated happy 80th birthday to the Vegan Society, who turned 80 yesterday, which is quite remarkable, really, when you think about it. Especially
yes, I actually did a stall for the Vegan Society last weekend. The first stall I've actually done for the Vegan Society, it was really good. It was at the Midlands Arts Centre in Birmingham. It was like an eco weekend.
Yeah, was that one of those ones where they provide all the stuff, Ronnie?
Well, they provided the tables and the tablecloths. The Arts Centre did. But we had to obviously bring along all the leaflets and stuff like that.
Right. Because what happened before was I got sent a pack before from the Vegan Society.
Yes, the Vegan Society. Yeah, the Vegan Society. They did send me some stuff, but I had some stuff already.
Well, yeah, I was going to say was, if I remember rightly, without digging it out, because I think I've still got it, it was only like a promotional pack. There wasn't really enough to actually give out. It was kind of more like an advertisement for them of what they could do, but the vast majority of it was food-oriented, if I remember.
Yeah, there was there's various things. One of the other volunteers brought along some stuff as well. A lot of it was recipes, but there was stuff about ethical, the ethical reasons for veganism as well. And I made sure when I made these little packs for people, because the thing is, when you do a store, you have to. I find that what you have to do is you have to select leaflets to give to people. You've got to think, well, what do I want people to take away with them out of all these leaflets? What would I prefer they took away? And then you make a little pack and you give that, because what people do, they look at all the leaflets, they don't, and this, quite often when you have a lot of them, they kind of aren't sure really what to take, and often they end up not taking anything. You see, so you always have to give them something, and I made sure that there was stuff about the ethical reasons for veganism in the little pack that I was giving everyone.
Yeah, it's always good to have a couple of leaflet packs ready, because if they say, oh, I'll take that and I'll take that, you might as well just give them a leaflet pack with 7 stapled together.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always a good idea, because I find that a lot of people kind of, they're not sure what to take, and then they end up not taking anything. And you don't want people to just take recipes. You need to give them some other. So you're best to have something like a little.
No, people could be a bit embarrassed taking a lot, but I mean that's what you want them to do.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
I'd say, well, they're all free.
I used to notice that though, because I can remember going. This is going back some years now, but to once upon a time on some caravan holidays as a kid, where you go into like the main reception and there'd be like a stand or something that would have like all these different leaflets on advertising like cheddar gourds or whatever. My mum would like carefully select 1 or 2, and I'm like, they're there for you to take. Like, why don't we just take one of each and look at them when we get back? And it was like really selective of like picking only the ones that I'm really interested in right this moment.
I tend to select the ones that are advertised in the local zoo, take all of them and put them in a bin somewhere.
Well, yeah,
that's admirable, to be fair.
Yeah, but Persona is calling you, Andy, and you, Ronnie, a troublemaker.
A troublemaker.
Well, obviously not directed at me.
If I wasn't a troublemaker, if I wasn't causing trouble for people that exploit and oppress, then I'd be very disappointed in myself, to be quite honest.
That's really true. But no, that's quite a good idea actually, with the whole like zoo flyers and things like that.
Oh yeah, I've done it. I remember doing it once. The last time I was in Ireland, I did it. I think either the last time or the time before. I think I probably met you on. I met up with you on that trip. It was.
I'll take holidays. There are loads of friends at the bottom of that bin over there.
Yeah, I was waiting. I was waiting for the boat to go back when it goes across to Wales, doesn't it? The ferry, and I noticed there's a load of leaflets advertising the zoo in amongst all the promotional leaflets in the kind of waiting place. So they all kind of disappeared.
All right, and then they wondered later on why their toilets were blocked.
Yeah, and that's what you do in McDonald's, isn't it? Block the toilets.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
At least we say about McDonald's. Hey, Ronnie, have you ever heard of radionics?
Radionics I've heard of, but I'm not sure what it is. I have heard the word.
I keep finding articles about it in the 70s things. I don't know if you did, Andy.
I do remember that word, yeah. I remember searching it before, but I can't remember what it came back as.
Is it like some kind of alternative kind of therapy type thing?
No, it's about achieving a kind of balance in the soil.
I see, about the soil, yeah.
It's kind of based on things like, I mean, you won't like this, Ronnie, probably, but it's based on things like tapping into cosmic energy and directing it at the soil.
Yeah, that comes from the sun, doesn't it? Cosmic energy. I don't know. No, I'm not really. I'm not. Although the soil is massively important. It's very interesting. That kind of it's something that George Monbiot's big into. The kind of the soil and how intricate and complicated the soil is with all the organisms that live in the soil and everything. And, that's something that's been destroyed and depleted by the sort of agricultural systems that are used now.
Yeah, it's an amazing ecosystem, isn't it?
Yeah, amazing.
If I remember rightly, Roger, hasn't that got that radionics thing? Has that got something to do with Reiki?
Reiki, I don't think so. I didn't see that, but it could. It's kind of in that kind of area.
I vaguely do remember now that word came up a number of times, and I was like, "What is this?" And I googled it, and like, if I remember rightly, that was kind of like where it led me. Yeah,
Reiki.
There was people using like these weird devices and stuff to go out and check the energy of the soil.
Yeah, and
I don't want to dismiss it because it might have some.
Yeah, Jennifer might know. She likes Reiki. She just said, like.
Yeah. I'm sure it was. I'm sure there was some connection there.
Reiki is that Reiki. So that is holistic therapy, isn't it? Reiki.
Yeah, and if I remember rightly, you can do Reiki from like afar, can't you? So you can kind of like send.
I don't know. I'd like all these things, basically. I'd like all these things, all these,
I don't really understand
so-called alternative medicines or whatever they are. I'd like them to be all properly scientifically tested, like, by people that weren't biased in any way. Because the problem is you've got a huge influence of the pharmaceutical companies, haven't you? Would like to kind of
There's nobody that's not biased in any way, though, Ronnie. That's the problem with that.
Well, by people that weren't in any way involved in the pharmaceutical companies, shall we say?
What about homeopathy? What do you reckon that, Ronnie?
It's difficult to understand how it might work, but you see, we had a dog, a greyhound, and it's quite topical, seeing as what's going on at the moment, and he was absolutely terrified of fireworks. Absolutely, the first sort of firework night we had him, he lay on the sofa for 14 hours. We couldn't move him. He was in a catatonic state out of terror of the fireworks. See?
That's not great for a dog either, is it?
No, it's not. So what we did was, and somebody said, "Oh, there's this stuff, and it's called," and it was like some kind of herbal stroke homeopathic stuff. And they said, and they claimed they tried it on their dog and it had worked wonders. And sort of recommended it, and I thought to myself, that's never going to work. He needs like a heavy dose of morphine or something, to kind of relax him. I mean, it was just so bad. But anyway, we got some of this stuff, and it was amazing. It kind of, because any bang that you heard, it wasn't just fireworks. We heard a motorcycle backfiring or something like that. He'd kind of go into a state of trauma. And as soon as anything like that happened, we'd put a few drops of this stuff on his tongue, and he recovered. It was I couldn't believe it, because this stuff was just herbal.
No, he wouldn't have been very good on the racetrack then, would he?
Well, he was. I mean, I think he'd had some sort of racing career.
But that might be what ended it.
But that might have been why he.
Anyway, I'm going to claim the right of telling my catatonic joke again, because it went over everybody's head. You were talking about a greyhound, so that's not very good for a dog. Catatonic. Never mind.
Oh no! I mean, I wouldn't have wanted to have a cat. Well, I think you're taking a chance with any greyhound with cats. I think you get these people claim that greyhounds are cat friendly, but I think the problem is that. If they normally might be friendly with a cat, but if the cat's kind of moved suddenly, then the instinct, could kick in with the dog. So I would never
kind of sighthound instinct.
But you see, going back to all these like alternative, what I'd like to see is them all properly, kind of scientifically tested, and then the ones that worked, I'd like them to be incorporated into the national health system.
You know Dave Callender and Fiona Hughes, don't you, Ronnie?
Yes.
Yeah, and when they were married, they both became homeopathic nurses in a homeopathic hospital in Guildford, right? And
yes.
Fiona said that because it's a usual thing that a lot of their patients were people that were at the end of their tether with regard to conventional medicine. And they would arrive, and they'd all have all kinds of different symptoms, and including things like there's no way I can sleep without a sleeping pill, and I need this for my pain, and I need that for my leg, and all that. So they used to go around with the same pill, just like a salt pill, and tell them that that's what it was. Oh, this is a sleeping pill. This will be good for you, and apparently it worked on everybody.
It's like the placebo effect, isn't it? Is that what they call it?
Well, that's more or less. But you could say that about loads of these things, right? But there has to still be some element of that. Like if you genuinely are suffering from X affliction, and someone gives you like a homeopathic remedy, which is just like a watered down tablet, basically of whatever, and you feel better, even if that is placebo. then your brain must have some serious healing effects because whatever symptoms you were feeling have been relieved.
I think I think that's true, but it's kind of really kind of only true in the sense of humans, isn't it? Who can kind of
yeah. Because I mean, obviously, as I'm an atheist completely, but like I can't ignore some of these people that call themselves like hands-on healers that have got like 150,000 apparently successful kind of like cases or whatever, where a person makes claim of this particular ailment.
It's I mean that's obviously psychological, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, but even if it is, and I mean, I'm more than happy to concede that all of that is just the idea of I'm going to go and visit this healer, and they've got these magic skills that are going to fix me, and it is that placebo effect. That still must be incredibly powerful. Imagine if you could actually just harness that.
Well, there was I was watching a program last night. It was about. Because Louise is really into like ghost, the ghost stories and stuff like that, and she kind of persuaded me to watch one with her, and it was about this. It was called the Edinburgh Executioner. It was about this bloke hundreds of years ago. He was some kind of government guy, and he killed loads of people, had loads of people executed.
Where did he live?
In Edinburgh, and he's got like in the big graveyard there. There's like a mausoleum to him, you see, and basically they started doing tours where they took people into the mausoleum, and loads of these people were being injured. They were suffering scratches on their faces and bruises and stuff, and they were saying that it was the spirit of this guy that was attacking them because he was obviously was a right evil bastard.
It's more like the Glasgow Kiss, though, Ronnie.
Yeah, yes. but there was someone on there saying that those things can, the body can create those injuries itself. The mind can cause those things to like appear on the body. It's kind of so strong that if people were in there, kind of almost expecting that something like that would happen, then could just happen. It's caused by the mind.
Well, I mean, I do think there's something to this idea of mind over matter. I mean, somebody mentioned, was it the body, mind and spirit things? There used to be a lot of conventions in Liverpool. There was quite a lot.
I've been to a couple of those mind, body, spirit things.
Yeah, that guy from Coronation Street, the big kind of, I think he got into some kind of scandal towards the end, but he used to be a regular there.
I'm not sure. No, never really. I never watched. I remember Ina Sharp was in Coronation Street. I think that was the last time I watched it. Yeah, many years ago. Minnie Caldwell, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think we've left everybody else behind now, Ronnie, with that.
Oh, yes, yeah, that's it, yeah. Oh, I haven't watched anything like that for many years, but it was something that was always on the telly back when I was a kid, But we better stop.
Yeah, come on, Andy. With this
vegan.
No, I mean, it's interesting, but I suppose it's not very on topic. We missed the spiritual part. That was like the early '60s, I suppose. We could have talked about some of that there, because I think that was kind of what was happening during that early '60s period, where there was a number of these people that were very much already involved in those other aspects in terms of holistic healing, in terms of like spirituality, in terms of all of those things. And so you did see some of those incorporations briefly. I mean, if you actually look at like the career of like Vera Stanley Older, for example, like you wouldn't even know she was a vegan if you looked at like her Wikipedia.
Yeah, what about Jack Sanderson though?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, some of these people, you wouldn't know that they were essentially part of the vegan society if you looked at some of their other work, because it's all just kind of like spiritual based and like doesn't even mention veganism.
Yeah, well, just for people tuning in, we're looking really at the 70s. I've kind of focused on the early 70s, and I think you might have done as well, Andy. But the definition they were using at the time included kind of like issues of ahimsa and this kind of stuff, and which was the thing, because it seems to me that if you look through the vegan of the 1970s, Jay Dimsha was involved quite a lot, and so they were obviously getting, quite a lot of interaction between the North American and the British society. The North American society was much more into ahimsa than the British one, and so they kind of incorporated it for a while. It seems in the British one.
Yeah, I mean, if you want me to, I think let me just double check. Is this 19? Oh, it's actually spring 71 that I've got open. But I was going to say that there is a definition that's at the front of this, which
that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it's not too far away from the current one, is it? It's just a little bit of language difference.
It's got like reverence for life and stuff.
Yeah. But I'll read it so everyone can potentially know. But so this is 1971, but the definition then was: veganism is a way of living which excludes all forms of exploitation of and cruelty to the animal kingdom and includes a reverence and compassion for all life. It applies to the practice of living on the products of the plant kingdom to the exclusion of flesh, fish, fowl, eggs, honey, animal milk and its derivatives, and encourages the use of alternatives for all commodities derived wholly or in part from animals. Veganism remembers man's responsibilities to the earth and its resources, and seeks to bring about a healthy soil and plant kingdom for a proper use of its materials of the earth. Now, I've never used that definition before as kind of like an argument for intersectionality, but I absolutely could and probably should in future. Well, because the way that that's described, especially at the very beginning, is...
Yeah, but I was going to say that, though, because you could say, from our point of view, that incorporates the focus and then immediately the scope.
Yeah.
But then it goes immediately back to the focus, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So is that a problem?
But then I suppose obviously it does, but then it kind of like summarizes again at the very end bit with the responsibilities to bring about a healthy soil and a plant kingdom of proper use of materials. Which I suppose would all be within the scope, yeah.
Yeah, but could you argue that was in aid of our fellow animals and not us, that bit?
The thing is that people that think that veganism is only to do with the exploitation of our fellow animals and nothing else would go back to Leslie Cross and say that that those people who'd come up with that definition in 71 had kind of diverged away from what Leslie Cross intended. That's what they would say, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, they're very selective, as we know. I mean, first of all, they select within Leslie Cross, but also they tend to ignore Watson, who was before Leslie Cross in terms of some of the things he said, and also after Leslie Cross. They're selective about Leslie Cross himself, and then they suggest that anybody after Cross was just like a corruption of veganism.
Yeah, but I mean, we know that it's nonsense, but just to put things into perspective, if you will. So, although she's only a vice president, if you want to class that as some sort of like dismissive title, and also obviously a member of the committee, but Elsie Strigley's still there in 1971. So do you not think she'd have gone, hang on a minute, this isn't what we decided many years ago? Or do you think she was quite happy? These are the things that never get talked about by any of these people. They want to talk about what, say, Cross said in 51, but they don't want to talk about the people that were there from 44 and still there right now.
Well, they tend not to want to talk about what Cross said in 54 either.
There's a number of people here. I'm sure if you went through the various things and checked the names of the committee, I mean, Serena Coles has been there since 50 or 49? So these are people that have been around a long time. Do you not think some of them might have said, hang on a minute, our definition's changed? We didn't notice.
Well, it does raise an interesting question of why did it change so often, though, isn't it? As well?
I think that's to do with potentially the influences that were coming. That's why I've asked a couple of times whether you think the kind of the music scene and the free love and all that sort of stuff of the 60s also just had its influences here too.
Well, funny enough, I've got a section on that coming up, because there's a really weird thing about somebody reviewed a book which had a section about sex in it, and then somebody responded to the review, but the review is really conservative, extreme kind of conservative review of this book, and then it was Leah Leanman, who wrote one of the early vegan cookbooks.
Yeah.
I think she went vegan in 1970 actually, and she objected to the review because it was all a little bit stuck in the mud, man, type of thing. So well, that's coming up, but it's kind of really weird the way that they're kind of arguing, because Lehman was not radical. I mean, she even called Cross an extremist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're both on Spring 71, Andy.
Yeah. So I mean, if you wanted to potentially go with what you've got, I mean, I only had that one open because I just wanted one open that had the definition. But actually, I think the first one that I was going to talk about was 72.
Oh, okay. Well, what I've got is there's an article by Dr. Frank Wokes. I mentioned him in one of my time tunnels because I said he's not woke, he's Wokes. And it's called False Claims for Meat. And it's to do with, this is Spring 71, and it's to do with a Sunday Times article of January the 24th. So that must be 1971 as well, the year of Electric Warrior. Just throwing that in. And it's on...
Whatever that is, I don't know what hell that is, Electric Warrior. Is that a band?
No, it's an album.
Is it?
The year of Imagine and the year of Sticky Fingers.
No, I don't know.
The disgust
anything about
that he answered that with, Ronnie, like that's something you clearly should have known.
Yes, you should have. Like we're going to be going on to 72, the year of the slider. Never mind. So they're talking. Yeah, because you're supposed to be a kind of really hip kind of punk guy and everything running here. So we're talking about the Sunday Times, January 24th of 1971, and they're doing this thing about warning people that children need to have flesh in their diet, right? And they said that pregnant women and young children must have meat, so-called, because there's parts of it which are essential to the development of the brain. So it's all part of that big brain thesis that people still talk about now. Although, as far as I know, but I mean, it's disputed. As far as I know, the big brain thesis that, that it was so-called meat that created the human big brain has been debunked because it was apparently starch and not flesh that did that, right? And so what they did was this doctor and his assistant, my personal assistant, Miss Mary Ranwell, went off and talked.
Did she?
Talked to the doctor, Dr. Michael Crawford, of all people, who Betty and all that, and but because this Crawford guy, this Dr. Crawford, was cited in the article as saying that you definitely have to have flesh in your diet and all that, and then when they actually went to him, he said, "Oh no, I was misquoted," right? And so then the rest of it is them battling away for a good year or so, I think. But they're battling away to try and get the Sunday Times to retract what they'd said, right? And so they're writing off to them and all this kind of stuff. And it just goes to show that even back in 1971, you get these false statements that are being made, even misquoting some poor doctor. And yet these ideas then hang around for decades afterwards, don't they?
Oh, yes. And there was this thing about the first and second class protein thing, weren't there?
Yeah, they talked about that as well. That's
and all
that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
All nonsense, yeah.
But I mean, I remember that as a kid, being told about, first and second class protein.
Yeah.
So therefore, if you're on a vegetable diet, you're going to have to really be careful. Which nutritionists and dietitians, they still say that, don't they? A plant-based diet is okay, but you've got to be very careful. And the suggestion is, well, maybe you don't actually. This kind of like it's a superhuman effort, for a vegan, whereas for ordinary people in inverted commas, it's, you just kind of stick anything down your guzzle and everything's all right,
Yeah.
It's a bit like that, though, isn't it?
It kind of is, and the thing about, I think that the thing about becoming becoming vegan is that it makes you think more about food, and that's a good thing. Because just to put anything in your mouth, that it's possible to eat, it's extremely foolish, isn't it? Really, and so we should be thinking a lot about what we eat, and I think that becoming vegan does make you do that, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Oh, actually, that was summer of 71, and then there's a big article about radionics. that was the first thing that I saw. But then I was looking at the Eva Bat doing all the kind of commodities kind of stuff. Really interesting. A big excitement about the fact that somebody's coming up with a featherless duvet. So it goes to show, doesn't it, that the kind of thing that probably modern day vegans don't even have to think about much. You just go down to your local shop or Argos or whatever.
Yeah, it's just there's just a massive amount of duvets that don't contain feathers.
It's actually probably more difficult these days to get hold of a feathered duvet.
Yes, it is.
I would imagine the average shop don't sell them. You'd have to go to somewhere a bit special.
So most of them going to hotels, though, especially with pillows and stuff. You can end up with pillows which have got feathers in.
Yeah, and you would think that
your own
they don't
pillow.
have a particularly long shelf life, like they probably get replaced quite often as well. So yeah, I wonder why that is.
I don't know.
Whether it's tradition, is
I was going to say it can't be price, because if you went to somewhere like Tesco tonight and you bought yourself like a Tesco value single quilt and pillow, none of those would be feathered.
No, they wouldn't. No, they're more expensive. I think the feathered ones
absolutely more expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're only small. The place where we got, I remember getting the last duvet we got, and there were some feathered ones there, but that it was just a tiny selection. The majority of them, probably like 90% of the ones in there.
Yeah, I think if you went somewhere a bit more that was like a Dunelm or somewhere like that sold all different fabrics and furnishings, then you probably would get one. But if you just went to somewhere like a Matalan, I doubt that you'd be able to get a feathered quilt these days.
No, maybe not. No.
Yeah. I always hated feathered pillows, even as a kid. I never ever liked a feathered pillow.
Well, often they would stick out and
they stick in you. Yeah,
sticking in. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just didn't like them anyway. Even if that didn't happen, I didn't like the fact that you'd sink into them.
Yeah, and they wouldn't bounce back either, would they?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It would kind of be like, I don't like that. So I never liked feathered pillows anyway. But it is strange to think that, it was the same as when you was talking about before with the horsehair mattress.
Yeah.
I just can't believe that something like that would have ever been considered an efficient means.
I know, but people don't know. It's like people that are vegan today, they don't know they'd been born. When you go back to the early 70s.
Well, I think that's a bit unfair, but the point is, it just means that there's a lot of things that they don't have to tick their box for, I suppose.
Well, I think what's really important to go back to the fact that they were talking about a featherless duvet is up until, what did you say that was, summer 71?
This is summer 71, yeah.
Yeah, so up until summer 71, potentially there was no viable way to avoid that, which is why they're quite happy about it. And yet they never said, well, we're not eating animals, so who cares? We're doing enough. It was always like, no, it's not enough. We need to make these changes. We need to strive for more. We need to make sure that we're doing this and doing that. I think that's although there's a huge period of time that's passed, they're working relentlessly throughout. I mean, again, to reiterate, you've got Elsie Shrigley still on the board there that's still working hard to spread this message all these years later.
Yeah, well, I mean, the way that this thing is reported, this must be one of the first ones that they've called it sleep quilt, apparently, and it's not filled with feather or down, and it's filled with something called diolan. I don't know what that is. It's available from this company in Lancashire. So obviously, that was a big deal for them.
Yeah.
I suppose everyone was still wearing, sheets and blankets and that in those days, 71 as well. So I think duvets might have been a little bit of a
They were. I think they came from Scandinavia, didn't they? Duvets.
It says Scandinavia here, yeah.
Yeah. It's like yogurt and all that. I remember when you couldn't get yogurt. I remember when yogurt came in and everyone started going mad over yogurt.
And muesli.
And muesli, and that would have been that's probably kind of late 60s. Yeah, and I think all that came from Scandinavia, didn't it?
And then Eva Bat's got 2 pages all about footwear and everything, because again, footwear was a real problem, especially like sports footwear.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So one of the things that Eva Bat always had to keep coming back to in terms of a commodities page was the footwear, because obviously, saying, I mean, it's when people used to use different footwear for different things. You go to a ball or you go to a dinner, or you'd have to have the right foot.
Of course,
It wasn't just like trainers or whatever it is now.
I don't think you had. There were no trainers in those days. I don't
Well, I
think
would imagine there was for like sports people.
There were running shoes. They
Yeah,
call them
yeah,
running
yeah.
shoes that you'd wear for.
Well,
But
in Ireland,
really,
they still call them runners. They call them runners.
yeah, they were.
So what would say like if you played like basketball or squash or anything like that, what would you wear?
Well, that was like they were called pumps, weren't they?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
you'd wear pumps
Yeah,
or plimsolls.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
well, I
sometimes you
suppose
get
to
them
be
in
fair, yeah, actually,
Yeah.
when I think back, even when I was in like first school, we all used to wear plimsolls. Yeah,
They used to flap about, and I mean, they made a terrible sound. And they were,
that's true. Yeah,
they had no
plimsolls probably the
cushioning.
least safety footwear ever. They're probably belong band now. You probably have to wear steel toe cap boots now for school.
But trainers just for everyday wear, like people wear them. No, you never had them at all. You'd wear shoes.
Yeah.
Or if you were vegan, you'd probably wear plimsolls, to be quite honest.
Yeah, well, I remember you mentioning that before, where like
Yeah.
if you have to wear a suit or whatever, you'd always have plimsolls on it.
Black plimsolls.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's like kind of key to remember as well that although Eva had the store in London, which obviously was one of the very few places that you could go and buy some non-leather footwear, this is long before the days of the internet and Amazon. So if you lived in Carlisle or Cumbria or Leeds, it's quite a journey to go and buy a pair of shoes, not to mention whatever that pair of shoes would have cost.
Yeah, they'd be very expensive. You'd have to just get plimsolls, really.
Yeah, you wouldn't be in that position. I mean, very few people, even those that could walk to Eva's shop, would have been in a position to buy them.
Or wellies, I suppose, for the winter. We used to have these things like when I was involved in the hunt sabs, and that would have been early 70s.
Well, on that note, Ronnie, that's excellent, because that brings me on to the article that I was going to bring up, because it's your letter that's printed in the Vegan Society's issue, and that's autumn 1972.
Yes, well, I'd been vegan because I went vegan in spring of 72, and I'd have been vegan 6 months, and I almost, just a few weeks after becoming vegan, I got involved in hunt sabs, and I wrote an article or a letter for their magazine about the hunt sabs. I also gave a talk at one of their meetings, one of their gatherings. I gave a talk about the hunt sabs as well. Which, because they weren't very activist orientated, the Vegan Society at the time. They weren't really like not really a kind of campaigning organisation in the sense, so it was something very, very different for them to have something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the magazine, and somebody giving a talk on it.
I can remember reading this article like the first time around a while ago, and instantly being sort of like drawn to it, because at that point I'd gone through like every issue from 44 onwards, and so you get very used to like the kind of thing that they print. And you also get very used to the graphics and the imagery that they use. And that really stands out, because it's kind of like there's the picture of the mink, there's the picture of the deer. It's a proper article about something that's being done direct action wise,
Yes,
which is really contrary to everything that they'd ever done before. Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. But loads of hunt sabs used to wear these boots called Bridgedales, which were like rubber boots. I don't know whether you remember them, Roger. Back in the day, there were these rubber boots that well, I think every hunt sab had a pair of them because they were the only boots you could get that weren't leather.
Yeah, they weren't very long though. They were like booties, weren't they? Kind of thing. Yeah, I think
They didn't go very far up your leg. They were like kind of short boots. Yeah.
I think a lot of sabs just wore wellies actually.
Or welly, but the trouble with wellies is they if you're running in mud, if you say
wellies is hard.
Yeah, you can leave them behind, can't you?
A hare hunt, yeah.
They're all right now if you get some more modern ones that have got like a string on the top. So you can kind of like tighten them up a little bit. But running in the old traditional just rubber wellies is a nightmare.
Yeah, terrible.
Nobody thought of putting string around wellies in our day, did it, Ronnie?
No, they didn't. No. So
to be fair, though, the old-fashioned rubber wellies, without having the string kind of like sewn in, it wouldn't have been great anyway.
No, it wasn't. So we all had these bridge. They must have made a fortune out of the Hunt Sabs, the company that made those. I don't know whether they're still going.
Did for a start.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because the Doc Martens have got a like vegan friendly version now, haven't they? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking of Bob Martin with the Anti-Mate.
You're thinking Bob. Oh, I thought you said Doc Martin. Bob Martin. The Anti-Mate that was used to kind of cover the scent of the fox. Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah, they'd have made a fortune out of the sabs. Probably still do. I suppose they still use it.
I don't know if
I
it's
haven't
still
heard
around.
it mentioned. I don't remember it ever being around when I sabbed, but I don't know, unless it had a different name.
We used to make our own. We used to make our own concoctions. Strong smelling stuff.
Yeah, it's all citronella, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
citronella oil.
Citronella really when I was out, and it's citronella that you still hear people talking about now. So I think that might have been something that's sort of been lost to time.
It's probably cheaper to make it yourself than buy a little can of spray.
Oh yeah, because, it doesn't last long. So, have you done that 1972 one then?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't want to read the entire article out because it's quite a long article, but it is very interesting, and I'm more than happy to send a link to anyone so that they can go and read it.
Yeah, Ronnie, do you remember the shopper's guide? Which
yes,
yeah, I mean,
yes.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday about it, and I obviously they're advertising in 1971 here. Saying it's updated, so they must have started it before the 70s, and I wouldn't have really ever seen one until the 80s. I mean, they were like a godsend, weren't they?
Yeah, they were like a Bible. You'd carry it around everywhere with you when you went shopping. Because of course,
it's like a pocket-sized thing, wasn't it?
The problem is in the early 70s that companies didn't have to list the ingredients on their products, so you didn't know what was in stuff, in packets of food or
the advert for it, right? The advert is they're kind of like trying to get people interested in it. They're going, so have you got these questions? What are the vegan margarines? Do all biscuits contain milk powder? Are there any vegan home remedies? Which car polish is all right to use? They've got a whole range of things.
Yeah. And there was an awful lot of work spent writing away to these companies and finding out what was in things.
I mean, this was like a written database. It was published every year, wasn't it?
Oh, yes. Yeah, and I don't know whether they sent out a little booklet or whether it was included in the magazine or how it was sort of disseminated.
Oh, yeah. I was never a member of the Vegan Society, so I must have just bought it.
Yeah, it was a book. It was like a little booklet, wasn't it, with stuff in?
Yeah, they had a little booklet. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because of course it's just before now you just look things up on the internet, and it's because it's kind of younger people will wonder how we ever managed having to rely on printed materials for things, but we did. We did.
It was very confident because it also had all the E numbers, didn't it?
Yes, because there's still a few of those that aren't suitable for vegans. Fewer now than there used to be, I think.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, Ronnie. Do you think that's changed? Yeah.
Well, a lot of stuff that used to be animal based kind of no longer is.
But there was loads of the E numbers in bread that wasn't vegan, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, they were. Yeah,
I
and
think that's all gone now, isn't it?
back in those days, probably most bread contained animal fat, because you'll find most bread, or a lot of bread these days, contains vegetable oil. But back in the day, nearly all of that was animal fat, and it was, it was kind of, there were only, a few makes of bread that actually.
So I'm assuming then that the Vegan Society probably still contact manufacturers, and they probably still have some kind of database, but it must be completely slimmed down because people just don't simply need it anymore.
No, they don't really, because I mean, the idea, what they want is for, the manufacturers to put the vegan sites mark on things, and I think most people employed by the Vegan Society are involved in that side of what they do.
Just as a side issue, if I may, you can tell me not to do this if you want, Andy. But there's still a lot of people still making the claim that kind of companies and supermarkets and that are finding that the vegan label is very off-putting. But here in Ireland, if you go to Lidl, or there's a place called Dunn's Super Value, these are the things instead of Waitrose and all that. If you go into all those, there's vegan signs everywhere, and I got some kind of Lidl. No, it was Aldi version of Weetabix today, which is sugar-free. And it's got two vegan signs. On the front, it goes something like, "Hi, I'm vegan," a big kind of sticker type thing. And then down below,
I from what I've seen also, and again, it's just anecdotal, but it does kind of counter the stuff that's being said, is products, especially like non-vegan brands, don't seem to have a problem at all with putting the word vegan on their products, or even on their signs, or even on their sections, or any of these things. It seems to be that scare word only.
Yeah. So my question, though, Andy, is this coming from, the Melanie Joy kind of cartel, because they're the ones
there is a study. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but there was a study that was done where they had two different baskets of shopping, and they changed the name of one of the baskets various times and observed and kind of recorded the results. And the vegan was the least popular. I remember that study, but obviously that study is based on X amount of people in one particular area that have already probably got a pre-established kind of narrative or stereotype about vegans and everything else. I don't think that that's a genuine bona fide reason to say, this word is scary, because, I mean, if you're a company like, I don't know, for example, Richmond, who the vast majority of your products are animal-based, you wouldn't want to be talking about veganism in any way, shape or form, and yet they're happy to put vegan friendly on the label.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mystery, isn't it? Because like it wouldn't take a lot for them just to bung plant-based on their packaging. And
I mean, so some places do, and some places it is like plant-based kitchen or any of those things. But quite often now that you'll see the sign that's like on the roof of the supermarket where it tells you the various things, that will quite often say vegan. So even if the other things have got plant-based on, they're in the vegan section.
Doesn't make any sense, does it?
No.
Yeah, it's a real puzzle to me because where does this? Because
well, I think it's interesting though, because who's the kind of people that spend money on this particular kind of research and marketing? Who are the kind of people who would invest staff into kind of asking these questions and finding out whether this was going to affect sales?
Maybe the supermarkets themselves won't.
Yeah, right. So, do you not think that if this was a big scare word and that's what the research suggested,
they'd have dropped it like a stone by now?
Absolutely, yeah. Because they've got a real financial incentive to not use something that's not going to be marketable, whereas obviously and evidently their research clearly didn't come up with those things.
The thing is, the products are marked as suitable for vegans, but also the ranges tend to be when you kind of look at the name of the ranges of stuff that's suitable for vegans. Like there's one supermarket that their range is called Plant Kitchen, Sainsbury's is Plant Pioneers, for instance. They call the range is called Plant, but the individual products say on them
Still says vegan friendly, yeah.
that they're vegan friendly, and they have some sort of mark that says a lot of them have the Vegan Society's kind of kite mark on to show that they're suitable for vegans, and that says vegan.
Yeah, so it just seems a bit of a mystery to me because when we started VIP in 2013, we were having a real big fight with groups like, mainly Leonard and Melanie Joy, but also Viva and stuff. They were very reluctant to change and to start just talking about veganism. They were very kind of hesitant, and they preferred, if they got given a chance, they'd want to use veg or veggie. And some of them use that thing that I used to really hate, which is that, vegan, VEG*N, to mean vegetarian and vegan, right? And so I thought that kind of fight had been won, really. But it seems as though, for some people, it's coming back. And Ronnie, do you think that's why people like, what's it, Animal Rising, they're wary of the word vegan, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's because they've, they're kind of, I think they're kind of followers of Melanie Joy. And Viva still are. Viva still quote a lot of Melanie Joy stuff, or they still mention her in stuff as well. Although they don't seem to be afraid to mention the word vegan. I think that's... but I think also with Animal Rising, it's this thing about... It kind of dates back to their origins as part of Extinction Rebellion. Because, of course, Animal Rebellion came out of Extinction Rebellion, and Animal Rebellion changed their name to Animal Rising. And
you'd expect it from Viva, though. I mean, their name was Vegetarian International Voice for Animals. So
that's right. You see, and it's the same with Animal Aid. That I've got some really old stuff still from Animal Aid that talks about veggie rather than vegan, but the modern equivalent of that would say vegan.
Okay, well, answer this, because I did a time tunnel on this, right? I mean, like, some of the groups were very late. I mean, Viva themselves, they were still promoting vegetarianism in 2012, and they were still called Vegetarian International Voice at the time. And now that they've rebranded themselves as Viva, the vegan charity. I mean, Peter was still promoting veganism in 2019, right? And so what tended to happen around around about 2000 through to about 2010, they started to do like a mix and a match. But it was striking when I was looking that it was all kind of, well, here's a bit of vegan, here's a bit of vegetarian. But the vegan part was always presented as a diet. So is that still the case with Viva and that?
I think it's a mixture, to be honest. I think it's a mixture. Because their material does contain stuff about, what happens to the animals, the fact they're killed and exploited and stuff. I mean, there's very heavy kind of emphasis on food and recipes and stuff like that as part of it.
Yeah, because it was kind of like, there's one Animal Aid thing I remember from the time tunnel where they were talking about solutions to world hunger in terms of the ethics of vegetarianism. And then it was kind of, so let's now go to veganism. Who would have thought that this food item could be vegan? Right. And so it was always like that. There was this kind of really kind of almost like structural resistance to veganism at one time. And it's taken a long time, but I suppose, just thinking about it logically, that because it took so long, it wouldn't take that long for it to all crumble again, and for them to go back to the veggies and all that, or at least relegate veganism to diet again. I mean, like this. I mean, that's where the journalists are getting it from, aren't they?
For the most part, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, just going back to what we were talking about before with the research, I mean, the Vegan Society obviously spend countless time and have done for decades now writing to, or I suppose emailing companies and brands and products to get them to potentially add the certified by vegan stamp. Now, don't you think that they'd potentially have had so much pushback and so much negative feedback that they'd have stopped asking if that was what the research suggests? I mean, again, you look at the people that are doing this day in, day out, like it would be the supermarkets or anyone that's selling these products, and it would be groups like the Vegan Society, far more likely to have reliable, sort of conducive research over a long period of time than the likes of Melanie Joy. I mean, where would she be accessing the data for a start? Because it would only be what's already out there in the public arena. Whereas potentially the supermarket would already have a clientele list, they'd have a marketing department, they'd have all these things that are set up, and they could go, right, is this a scare word or not? Well, clearly not. So it does make you think, and I mean, just thinking back to say like,
you can't say clearly not. I mean, in some ways, there is some evidence that the data is mixed. As Ronnie said, there was that. You said that research that was done.
Yeah. There is definitely a study that says that about the two baskets.
But you see, the thing is, if veganism is presented as a diet, right, and that's all it is, then people that kind of are non-vegans will see that as that food as somehow lesser. That, in other words, that it contains, it's going to be not as tasty. That stuff, things that I like are being subtracted from that food. If you see what I mean.
But I mean, why are the labels still there then, Ronnie? It doesn't make sense, does it?
Well, because I think basically that what you've got is if you've got a product that is actually vegan friendly, but it's not got a label on it, and people that aren't vegan are buying it, then putting a vegan friendly label on it isn't going to stop those people from buying it that are buying it already, if you see what I mean. So there may be that, thinking in it. But of course, they want the vegan market. If something is suitable for vegans, they want to say that it is, because they want that extra money that vegans are going to give them for the product, don't they?
Yeah, except, I mean, we all accept that the vegan market is pretty small. I mean, like things like almond milk, for example, that's not even aimed at the vegan market. I mean, neither is Impossible Burger, ironically. But, because they're aimed at the whole food or the health food market, which is why Impossible, when they got into trouble over the vivisection, they said, well, we don't care what vegans say because this is not for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But why miss out on those people that kind of?
Oh well, I mean, they'd welcome it, but if they're going to alienate anybody, they'll alienate the vegans.
Yeah, because we're not the biggest consumer of their product, and they know it. Like, again, you need to pay attention to the research of the people that are selling these products, because no one's got a higher incentive to make sure that it's correct. So, these are the things that we should be paying attention to. But I think, going back to kind of like the claims making, I mean, despite all of their other faults, I would actually say, thinking back to NARM, that the claims making of both Viva and Animal Aid was stronger than that of Animal Rising. And you could say that both Viva and Animal Aid have got much stronger control over them in terms of other groups that they're affiliated with, or donors, or all of those sort of things, if it was a scare tactic. So it really makes no sense why Animal Rising would be the most reluctant.
But it's ideological, you see, because, as I was saying earlier, what happened was because their origins are Extinction Rebellion, and one of Extinction Rebellion's is kind of principles is system change, not individual change. In other words, they're kind of wanting to.
That would go far in that way.
Yeah. They want to create pressure to change the system. Not kind of. They don't want to point the finger at individual people and saying this is your responsibility as an individual. You see, I mean, it's a flawed ideology as far as I'm concerned. But that's where it comes from.
Yeah, that's where they're getting it from. There's a couple of things in the chat that I'd like to think.
We're on to 10 o'clock now.
Yeah, it's gone 10. Yeah. So. Inclusive Vegan says, is Beyond Burger okay? In terms of the vivisection, I believe so. the problem with Beyond Burger is the cost of it.
Yeah,
and so
if I remember rightly, the vivisection, i.e., there was like tests that went on beforehand and then again, secondly, when they changed their recipe. I think that was solely linked to Impossible Burger because it was
Yeah,
definitely
it
them
was
that made
research
the
on
statement.
rats, wasn't it?
Didn't give a shit. Yeah,
Research on rats, yeah. But
Yeah.
so Beyond Burger's okay. It's just that what's tended to happen is all the supermarkets, including the cheaper ones, to use that phrase, like Lidl and Aldi, is they've now got their own kind of vegan burgers or vegan friendly burgers, and the point is they might not be quite the same taste and texture as Beyond Burger, but they're kind of half the price.
yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, massive. I mean, you can get 8 Tesco and Sainsbury, for instance. You can get like eight burgers in a packet for a couple of quid, sometimes less. And
Yeah,
they're quite honest. They're quite honest. But once you've got the kind of the onions and the mustard and the tomato ketchup on them and all the other things,
you would know, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and on the Beyond note, because they are very expensive, but like this is just something that I worked out because there's quite often 3 in my house for dinner, and that's a pain because they come in packs of 2. I've worked out that for the £4.50, which is quite often what the pack of 2 burgers is, you can buy either their pack of 6 meatballs, or if they've got a bag, get their mince. And you can actually make either 6 burgers by flattening the meatballs with a frying pan or a lid or something, or you can make 8 out of their mince for exactly the same price. It's just the fact that they've conveniently squashed it into a patty for you already.
That's domestic violence against their balls.
yeah,
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
just
that's
the
right,
fact that the
yes.
mince is the least often in stock. So it's normally the meatballs that I'll go for. But in terms of like the fact that, you can get 6 burgers instead of 2 for the same price. And they're like an absolute fraction smaller.
Well, I mean, like it's, a lot of people are going, oh, is the vegan market or is veganism itself kind of collapsing? And they're going off the sales results of these 2 expensive vegan-friendly, one vegan-friendly and this Impossible Burger thing. Whereas really what it is just the market is doing what the market does.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, £4.50 is a lot of money to ask for 2 burgers. And so if there is some sort of decline in the sales, the first thing they should probably try doing is reducing the price a little bit and making it affordable. Look at, say, like a premium cow flesh burger of the equivalent weight and match it in price.
Yeah, but then you've got the economies of scale getting in the way of that run.
Well, yeah, but and what I'm saying is, if they're in a kind of ultimatum of we either change something or we go bust, then reducing the price would definitely help sales. Because everyone potentially that talks about the Beyond Burger, for example, likes the taste of it. It's only the price that puts them off. It's very expensive for what you get, yeah. And it's usually one of the things that vegans bring up.
No, I don't think. I think I might have had the Beyond Burger at a vegan cafe place once.
Yeah, well, I was supposed to. You talked about the ferries. I was supposed to get a Beyond Burger on the ferry going over to Holyhead, and but they had to search, and they found one apparently in the freezer, in the bottom of the freezer somewhere, and when it arrived, it was just this kind of squashed piece of nothing really. So I don't even know if that was a Beyond Burger, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I've never.
Yeah,
I've
that's
never.
a good point as well. They're quite often, if you've got like a club card, for example, they are quite often a few weeks. They'll be, and then they'll be on offer again, and they're half price.
So there's another question from Unique Vegan. Well, it's a statement really. I use almond and coconut milk. Love to cook with them. Now, I've seen at least 2, maybe 3 surveys, and soya and oat seem to be the favourites amongst vegans, and it's almond is right down the list. So I don't know whether that's because of the bees situation.
I think it might. I think it might be because it's horrible in tea.
What?
Almond milk, yeah, horrible. Yeah. Is it what is it that vegans would use that plant milk's most for? Would it'd be for putting in tea, wouldn't it? I'd
Yeah,
imagine.
but this person is talking about cooking.
Oh, for cooking and yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're using stuff for cooking, but when they'd be looking at sales of the plant milks, that covers all uses, doesn't it? You see,
I like oat milk in tea. You see, the thing is, again, that's a generational difference there because I really just stick with soy milk because that's what I know. I mean, it's almost like I'm a vegan version of the kind of dairy lover who goes,
You see, the reason I kind of switched over to oat milk because, of course, I think that probably oat milk is probably a bit better environmentally than soya, as well.
I don't know about that, but you might be right.
Yeah, I think it is. I think, that it depends because
I don't know about everything, but I think that oat is definitely less water intensive.
Yeah, I think they calculate it on various scales, don't they? In relation to environmental impact in different ways, and soya's better in some ways and worse in others than oat. I think that's what it is. But the reason is that soya milk used to be always the same, right? But then they started doing things like putting vanilla in it and stuff like that. So you'd kind of have a cup of tea somewhere and it'd come back tasting like someone put ice cream in it. You see, so that put me off soya milk. So when I went out anywhere, I always had oat milk because I could be sure.
What's a bit of ice cream in your tea?
Oh, my, horrible. Oh, I don't want to. All right in coffee because it don't matter in coffee. Cause coffee's strong anyway. It can take all these different tastes. But tea, you don't want ice cream in your tea. And I'm very, so therefore I found that oat milk was more because it hasn't got a kind of strong taste that kind of changes the taste of the tea. Whereas I find almond milk does. That's got quite a strong taste. See, but oat doesn't. So that's the reason why I kind of switched over to oat milk was because I could trust it more to always taste the same. You see, and now you can get it's really nice. When we get this kind of barista one, oat milk, and it's actually lovely. It's kind of got a creamy.
Well, I just had a quick look on images, and cow's milk uses the most water. Then followed, I mean, you're talking about 628. I think that's litres per litre.
Yeah, it's the almond next.
No, that's cow's milk. Then it's
then almond.
Yeah, then 371 almond, 270 rice, which is very watery, I think. Then you've got oat milk, and then the best one for water seems to be soya.
Oh, I don't.
But then there's other things. It's like then there's stuff like land use. The amount of land it takes to grow it, and there's other categories, isn't there, in terms of the environment as well. But I think the main thing is that.
Well, I'm just here to plant my soya milk flag. That's not all.
Yeah, I mean, but of course the other thing is that oat milk can be sourced kind of more locally, or the oats can be sourced more locally. I mean, soya tends to be grown. A lot of soya is grown in the UK.
One of those things that, pretty much even some of these, farms in Wales and stuff that say, "Oh, my soil's no good." You could usually grow oats on them as long as it's not like.
But we could grow, but soya will grow in this country. Soya will grow in the UK. Types of soya, but
it's just more kind of resource heavy in terms of what needs to be done.
It's kind of what's, for instance, tea. Tea grows in you can grow tea in the UK.
But you know what this is? At its very heart, right? This goes back to Tom Reagan, where he says that people of goodwill need to come together to solve these problems. It's just that we don't have goodwill.
Yes.
Wow. Anyway, no.
Because we've got interest, we've got profits, we've got, companies and all that kind of shite. Right? If it was about doing what's best for the planet, for our fellow animals, for humans and all that, it would change the conversation. But unfortunately, you can't trust people just to be truthful about it because they've all got vested interests all over the place.
Well, we've got an economic system that's based on greed and selfishness, isn't it? That's the problem. You haven't got an economic system that's based on, that's based on fairness and justice, have we? And that's the problem. So it's far better to get tea from thousands of miles away, where you've got poor people that can be paid a very small amount of money and makes massive profits for companies, and to ship it over here than to grow it in this country. And that's the reason, because it's all profit based, isn't it? People being greedy and wanting to make, exploit others to make a load of money, and that's the problem. It's the economic system, isn't it? It's capitalism, isn't it? That's why you get this crazy thing that having to get stuff from halfway around the world that we could grow in this country. But there we go. And so, but then I think that capitalism is fundamentally incompatible with veganism. Incompatible with veganism, because it's a system of exploitation, isn't it? And veganism,
absolutely.
Opposed to exploitation. So once people of goodwill, we would do something about economics, wouldn't we? No,
we do about everything.
Everything, that's the thing. Yeah.
Let me drop back to some of the stuff that I had, Andy, if that's all right. For start, I'm going to miss the sex bit out. Although there's one bit where I was saying that there was one bit in spring 71 where they were talking about this huge advertising campaign because they were worried because consumption of cow milk had dropped. And so they were starting an advertising campaign focused on women and children. And it was going to cost 350,000. And Ronnie, what you did the conversion, and it ended up being what, 5.5 million?
About 5.25 million. It's about 14 times more now. A pound back in those days is now. It would cost £14 on average to buy the same thing. That
it's so ironic, isn't it? Because we still get this. Oh, you vegans are forcing this and forcing that, and there they are. 5 million quid's worth of advertising.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's right. People are bombarded all the time. You give someone a leaflet about veganism, well, you're forcing veganism on me, and whereas they're bombarded all the time by television adverts and stuff in the newspapers and everywhere with stuff.
I mean, what you would know better, but so at the same sort of time, early 70s. Who would have been a big company? I mean, that would have maybe had billboard advertisements or even radio commercial sort of things on a regular basis, and then just think about what their yearly advertising budget was in comparison. Just one company.
Yeah, like bloody Matthews Turkeys or something.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm saying. So, you think, absolutely, and I mean that money must have been raised somehow, probably through village fetes and stuff. Everything that they did, I mean, it goes back to some of the stuff you were talking about earlier in terms of the publications and things that were handed out. All of that printing cost them money.
Well, that's right. Yes.
I mean, what was it, £4 a year or something? The annual membership. Oh no, it's lifetime membership. So you don't even get it yearly; you get it once.
For £4.
£4, yeah. So it's not going a huge way, is it?
No. Well, no. I mean,
they put it up to 20 quid apparently.
Oh.
Well, that would be whatever's 15 times 20 now. Would be is that £300?
Well, what is the life thing for the vegan society now?
I'm not really sure. I don't think it's quite as much as that.
I don't think it's quite. I mean, look, before it was about 120 quid or something.
Yeah, because
when is the cut off? When you say 14 times, when would that go up to? 99, 90?
No, I think that's the 2023 figures. So from 70, from 50 years ago, say 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Then the value of money has dropped by 15 times. So the buying power of a pound then.
Maybe I should join the vegan society at last.
Yeah. So you've got to multiply it by about 14 or 15.
71, so it's only like £4.
Now, somebody's put in the chat the amount is 350 quid.
350, okay.
So that corresponds with what you were saying, Ronnie.
Yeah, that's right. Yes,
in that case,
it's kind of equivalent. Yeah,
no, they've gone with inflation.
I mean, to be fair, that's still not a lot of money considering you sign up when you were 16 and get like 60 years out of them potentially.
Yeah, and also you've got different types of subscription now because you can get a digital subscription where you don't receive their magazine through the post, and that's quite a lot cheaper than.
Do they have a membership for people who's not going to last very long, Ronnie?
I think there was a pensioners discount or something.
Yeah.
I do remember looking for
They've got a young person. I think people that are sort of 26 and under or something like that can join for free. For as long as they are under that age. Yeah, they've got a free membership now for.
How do you prove that?
I don't know how you prove.
I don't know how you'd ever
honesty.
Prove
There's a person here. They go. This person's been under 26 for the last 30 years.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I don't know how you prove it. Because
I can send them a copy of my birth certificate.
I don't know whether they do it on trust, but I didn't know about that. It was only when I was doing this stall, the last weekend, that there was information that I'd been sent to give out, and it had that on it. This free membership for young people.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, but no.
That's shocking.
I suppose it is all just based on trust. Yeah. What could you say?
Well, it's like if you're.
Why are you vegan? But what more?
Could be birth certificate, I suppose. But
Well, it's like if you're unwaged, you get reduced.
Yeah.
You don't have to prove you're unwaged. We don't have to send in a copy of your, letter from the DWP or whatever.
If you're a student.
Or a student, you don't have to.
I remember when I was looking on their site before at like their promotional stuff. I'm pretty sure that there's an option on their site if you're requesting some of their like promotional material that if you're unemployed you can get it for free. You just have to pay the postage. So I think they're quite good with stuff like that.
Yeah, they are. I think the main problem I have with the vegan site is they're not, they're not nearly enough focused on outreach. They've become better in that respect than they were at one time, but it's still not nearly not nearly enough.
In spring '72, Ronnie, Eva wrote to the ambassador of Spain saying, if you don't stop bullfighting, we're going to tell everybody who is a member of the Vegan Society to boycott Spain.
Oh, right, yeah. That's interesting, because of course that'd be round about the time. I've been searching it. It's strange, like you can access all the back copies of the vegan magazine on Issue, can't you?
Yeah.
That's where all,
Issue, all fall down.
Issue, yeah. Yes. But the vegetarian, there's hardly any of their magazines on there because I was searching. I wanted to find.
You are correct. Yeah,
I wanted to find the copy of the Vegetarian that contained the article that persuaded me to become vegan, which would have been probably spring '72, and I can't find it anywhere.
Yeah, it was written on slate. That's why.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
No, Ronnie is right though. Like the Vegan Society's kind of like backdating, although it's Issue that do it rather than like the Vegan Society, but obviously they must have made them available, is exceptional. Whereas like in the past, when I was trying to correlate certain things, like when it would be like, I don't know, 52, they had the annual vegetarian conference and like 3 members of the Vegan Society spoke. Oh yeah, that'd be a great issue to try and pull up. Don't exist. Their record keeping is crap.
I think you can write to them, and they've got the hard copies in an archive.
Yeah. You have to pay for all of those, though. I mean, you think that you can literally read from 1944 up until last month. No, sorry, I think it only gets. You haven't got 2024 yet on Issue, but you've got all of 2023 that's on there. So you can read from 1944 to 2023 for free.
So you don't need to join then, do you?
Well, I think they don't. So I don't think the 2024 issues will get uploaded to Issue until next year.
Oh, I can't wait. I tell you what, Andy. Remember we talked last week about the fact that they actually had a thing at one of the AGMs to scrap the journal, right?
Yeah.
Well, in the winter '71, they're still on about the fact that the journal is taking far too much to create, and again, it's a kind of problem. And apparently, Jay Dimcher offered to produce it in North America, and they say, well, there might be a way of doing it, but the quality will be worse. So I don't know whether you've noticed that, but there's a change in the '70s where suddenly everything is a little bit kind of a bit more out of focus. It's a little bit kind of.
I had noticed. Same as the cover changes again slightly, and it's just got like a photo of veg or something on the front.
This is because the Vegan Society were in danger of closing down in the early '70s.
Well, it also, again, just shows that, like, they survived solely on the little bits of money they got from membership, plus what they were putting in themselves. I mean, Watson says it himself, that for the first couple of years especially, he's constantly out of pocket, just replying to letters.
Yeah.
Not just in terms of, like, the time it takes, obviously, to read and reply to them, but, yeah, he'd have to pay postage every single time.
Yeah, he said he was up to 2 a.m. in the morning writing letters, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. Here's a question for you, Ronnie.
All at their own expense. Like, you know, same as like when we think about things these days, when someone does like a conference, even if they're not getting paid for the conference, there's a good chance they might be getting some sort of expenses, maybe some help with their travel costs or anything. You look at all those years that Eva Batt travelled up and down the country giving free lectures. Well, she wasn't claiming expenses. The Vegan Society certainly weren't paying for a fuel or for a train.
Well, Leslie Cross did a lot of voluntary stuff as well.
Yeah, they all did. Not to mention, you know, like both the Shrigley's did a lot for the Vegetarian Society. I bet all of this was at their own expense all of the time. And their own, obviously, time donations. These people have got families, kids.
Well, come on, Andy. If they don't have the foresight to set up a Patreon account,
that is a really good point, actually. Yeah, why didn't they set up a Patreon account?
Yeah.
And do you know what? Leslie Cross should have set up what they called as well, super chats.
You should have. Yeah.
I
Hey, Ronnie, a question for you. I did a kind of live stream of the female pioneers, and then I did one on the male pioneers, or some of them. And so I looked at Watson Cross and Arthur Ling, and in the Arthur Ling thing, he's a big fan of this. There's in the Articles of Association, their section 4B or something, is the fact that they were trying to set up a fund or a house or a home for elderly vegans.
Yeah. Oh yes.
You know about that?
I didn't specifically know about that. No, but I mean, it still is a problem, isn't it? That
we can get in there. We can get in there, lad.
Well, the thing is, it would be good. It'd be lovely if there was a home. It'd be great if there was a home we could all go to. Isn't there, like that where you knew? Because there is a problem with vegans going into homes, that are kind of non-vegan and being fed.
It's scandalous. I mean, you've got lifelong vegans being fed flesh.
Yeah, because they don't know. They reach the stage where they don't know.
Yeah,
they probably don't know the difference. If they've got dementia or something like that.
I closed all my tabs now, but there was one that I had open. I think it was either 73 or 74. I'll have it ready for next week, which was the opposite end of that, where they're talking about raising money for a youth club for almost kind of the opposite reasons, in the sense that they want these young people to have somewhere where they can go to and socialise. So there is this like forethought throughout. And I just think that's really incredible, again, to kind of take into consideration. These people were already dedicating lots of their time, lots of their own money. They'd already made lots of personal sacrifices and fallen out with people and all these different things now, some of them for a couple of decades, and yet they were constantly striving to be better and improve things. And yet there's such a reluctance to do that from the movement now. We're almost like, well, we've got this far and we're not going to change anything.
Yeah, I think that the movement is is in a bit of a trough at the moment. Everything to me, I don't know about others, but everything to me seems really flat at the moment.
Yeah, I think I think I'm wondering
we're
if COVID,
thinking of doing a Still Alive about this, aren't we?
yeah, I wonder if COVID had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I think that's true, but
yeah,
I mean that's a while ago now. So
it's a while ago, but you see, I think the problem is that humans are creatures of habit, and what happened with COVID, it made people sort of like radically change their habits, didn't it? You know, people weren't able to go out, socialise, and all that, and so people got into different habits.
Yeah, all the routines were snapped.
People got into different habits and then stayed in those different habits. And you know, I've known people that were like very active before COVID, and then they weren't able to be active, you know, in the same way during COVID, and after kind of it all. You know, kind of it all ended, all the lockdowns that ended, they never got back to the activism again.
It was weird though, because during COVID, there was loads and loads and loads of really good conferences that you could go to. I mean, almost like on a daily basis.
There was lots of online stuff. I mean,
I mean, Zoom call this, and you know,
there was. But one thing that kind of we did locally was it was quite complicated to set up. But kind of I set up like advertising on social media, and you know, in the form of short videos, you know, on social media, just in our local area, and it was like really successful in terms of the number of people that kind of responded to the adverts. I still kind of carried on, you know, a bit with that. Even now and again, I'll do an ad. I haven't done one for a while because I've been so busy with other things. But it was just thinking of, okay, so these avenues have been blocked off in terms of promoting veganism. But like,
I mean, what are you judging success on though, Ronnie? Clicks or people who?
Well, what it is what you do is you kind of included in the advert is like a button that people can click on to access a website promoting veganism. And so you get statistics back as to the number of people that have clicked on that, have clicked on the link. I mean, it doesn't mean they become vegan or anything like that. You don't know, but they've at least they've gone to that website.
There's an interesting structural problem, isn't there, in our movement, which is, you know, Tom Reagan's revolving door. Our numbers don't go up. They just hover in the same thing, but there's always different people. You see all these Facebook and social media things. How long have I been vegan? Most people are saying something between, you know, 1 and 7 years, for example. And, you know, people who are over 7 years are seen as veterans or something. And so there's a problem. I mean, you know, we were told for years and years that, you know, Gary Yoski has created millions of vegans. Well, where the feck are they?
Well, I think there is. I think there is. If we say people who identify as vegans, whether really they're actually vegans or not, who knows? You know, but say people that identify as vegans, let's say, I think that number has gone up. There's a lot more of those people now than there was back in the day. There is an increase in those numbers, but I think that you know the huge problem is that only a tiny percentage of those people actually actively promote veganism, are involved in outreach. And I, you know, that, as I say all the time,
but you're not saying there's millions and millions of non-active vegans, are you?
Oh, there's not millions and millions, but I think the percentage of the population that claims to be vegan has increased over the years. I mean, obviously, if you go back, back in the day to what we've been talking about just now, like the early 70s. The number of people who identified as vegan back in those days is massively fewer than the number that do so now. So there has been, over the years, that increase. And that's obviously that's brought about a situation where it's so much easier now to live as a vegan. The availability of food products suitable for vegans, the availability of options, vegan friendly options in eating places, for instance. There's been it's hugely different now.
Yeah, but aren't you proving the point, Ronnie, that really people orient towards veganism as a diet?
Well, obviously the diet's a really important part of it, and I think there are people, there are a lot of people that kind of think it is a diet, but that's all down to getting the right sort of outreach out there, isn't it? To kind of educate people that it kind of isn't, that's far more than that. And I think that's the kind of problem. I think the thing is that sort of like back in the day, the percentage of people who call themselves vegan who are actually activists in campaigning, for animals in one way or another was far greater than it is today.
Yeah, but now you're bringing in a new variable, which is the people themselves. And of course, there is a lot of theories about, neoliberalism and everything. People are just not the same as they were back then. They're not as political. They're not as engaged, and they're more kind of secure in terms of their material circumstances. They've got more to lose. It's like when Thatcher started selling people their own council houses. It meant that they then have to kind of watch what they did, because otherwise they would lose their mortgage and all this.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's much
much harder. I think that's another key part of what's changed.
Yeah, I mean,
there's shortcuts to everything now, isn't there? Like, just for example, I suppose going back 30 years, if you wanted a nice car or something, there wasn't things like credit. If you didn't have the money, you didn't have it, and that's how life was. Whereas now there are shortcuts to kind of like everything, and technology has kind of provided a lot of shortcuts. And so even the people that come into the movement, they don't want to put the hard graft in to get there. They want to take some sort of shortcut. That's why they lap up these RSPCA campaigns and stuff, because it's kind of like someone else somewhere else is going to solve this. This is why these influencers get so popular, because they create the idea that they're going to fix this so that they don't have to.
Yeah, the problem of people not doing things, there's a lack of autonomy, far more autonomy back in the day where people would kind of, take the initiative to do things themselves. Whereas that seems to be much less these days. And people who are active tend to be active in things that other people have organised. That's why so many people have jumped on this RSPCA campaign, because someone else is organising it.
Well, I bet you'll know this too, Ronnie, because, I mean, I've had quite a lot of experience of this in various ways over the years, but probably one of the most glaring times that I've seen it is with like kids' birthday parties. The kind of, obviously having the ability to communicate with each other on the phone is brilliant for all sorts of reasons, but it also gives people this very easy method of going out. So even if you organise something, once upon a time, 20 years ago, if you just said to someone, I'll meet you at 6 o'clock on Saturday at that place, you'd have just been there, right? Because it was really awkward just to cancel, let alone anything else. Whereas now it's so easy and convenient for people to send a text on the actual day of that event, even if it is a birthday, to say, sorry, can't make it anymore, and that's it. And it's the same with like these organised things. The amount of people that I had loose conversations with up until 2 or 3 days before Nan that were coming that suddenly couldn't come because it was really easy for them to not come. Whereas if we'd have had a one-off conversation, say, at a different festival a month before, they'd have all been there.
Yeah,
it's just like technology is giving people these shortcuts, these easy takes all the time, and so that's what they're looking for. Instant solution.
Yeah, but it's weird that you're saying that the ease of communication is a problem.
Well, it's because it's kind of made everything easier to. I mean, that's the way that everything is now, isn't it? If you come across a problem, people are like Googling a solution. They're not actually thinking about it rationally. Everything's always kind of like instant, quick fix. And that's I suppose the nature of today's society. So they look to replicate that with everything that they do. And that is what we see from activists. I mean, you could definitely argue that there's more quote unquote vegans now than there ever has been at any time. But how many of them are actual activists?
Yeah, I think that's
becoming the norm, right? The longer this goes on, the more normalized it becomes to be vegan, but not be an activist. Whereas obviously once upon a time, that was the complete opposite.
Yeah, and the other problem is to do with young people, because back in the day, if somebody was an activist, they were invariably either late teens or early 20s. Well, in most cases, there were people older than that, but the vast majority were younger people. But now that's not the case. We go along to any, animal rights demonstration. You don't hardly ever see any young people, or even a vegan outreach event or anything like that.
They've got more to lose, you mean?
Well, I think and that may be one of the things, but they're not doing something whereby they'd lose anything. I'm not talking about anything where people are breaking the law. I'm just talking about doing some outreach or peaceful protest.
I think although obviously it's all subjective, I think that more to lose also affects people's pride and ego and those kind of things too. I mean, one of the things that I still hear regularly from people that are kind of, I suppose, already understand this subject to some degree and understand that there's a problem and there's an immoral action that's going on. Most of the time, what actually is their real stumbling block is that they don't want to tell their husband or their mum and dad or their co-workers or their best friend that they've gone vegan because they don't want to deal with that stigma and pressure that comes with it.
That's always the case, isn't it?
That's something that I think society really cares about more than once upon a time people would have.
That's not new, though, is it, Andy?
I think in terms of social media and that sort of stuff, it's much easier. It was much easier once upon a time to keep your private and personal life separate than what it seems to be these days.
Yeah, okay, that's an interesting one. I've never heard that before. That's interesting. What do you reckon? What do you make of that, Ronnie?
Well, I think it's easier for someone to say because I had a friend who was.
You never did.
I did have a friend once, briefly, until they found out about me. Where basically he didn't want his co-workers to know he was vegan. And that was the reason he wasn't on social media, because I don't know why, I never understood, why he didn't want them to know, but he didn't, right? And so he didn't, he used to say, well, he was always asking me about different events. And I said, well, look, if you were on Facebook, you'd be able to find out about that. Oh, I'm not going on there. I don't want my co-workers to find out, that I'm vegan, you see. And so, of course, that's why he didn't go on social media, in case they were able to access his social media.
That's really interesting. Somebody, Inclusive Vegan, has said it's harder to come out as vegan than bi. And there's I don't know if people know the vegan queer poet Dominic Berry. He's quite a big name now, and he's got a poem which is coming out as a vegan, and he's saying that it's harder to come out as a vegan now than it is to come out as gay.
I think, I think that kind of may be the case, but I kind of. I don't know. I mean, it's difficult because it's something that never.
Maybe it's something to do with tattoos. That you're expected to have a big bloody vegan tattoo written on you.
Well, it's something that never bothered me. But I mean, no, I don't. I don't know.
It's a bit of a mystery, isn't it?
It kind of is, but you see, someone can. You can have a. It's only if you're on thing. You can still be on social media and do it so that people that don't want to see what you've got on there don't see it, can't you? I don't know. I really don't know, but
Well, it's not as though there's a law that a vegan person on social media has got to talk about veganism, is it?
Oh no, not at all. No, but it just enables them to access things like events and stuff like that. If you're on social media, like particularly Facebook, where it kind of is more geared to things like that. No.
Yeah, but I expect your your persona on Facebook probably wouldn't look vegan at all, really. But that doesn't mean that you can't be checking out what's going on in the vegan world, is it?
No, I don't really
all, no.
understand that either. As long as, obviously, if you're going to put like an ALF cover photo and that sort of stuff, then probably, yeah. But if you're just a generic person on there and it's just your name and a profile picture
one
of you,
interesting
all you
example
share is like...
Louise Wallace, who started World Vegan Day. I mean, like, you go to her page and, you know, it doesn't hit you between the eyes that she's a vegan.
Yeah, exactly. There are definitely people that have got just what you would class as bang average Facebooks where you wouldn't even know they were vegan if you didn't know them.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop you, and that doesn't stop people being involved in outreach, does it?
No. I mean, some of these people, for example, I mean, maybe not on my new Facebook because there's not that many people on it, but on my other one before I lost it, there was definitely a few people that I was friends with who would like posts and comment on certain posts, but would never share anything on their page.
You know, Ronnie, you're always saying the problem is there's not enough activists. Maybe there's a lot of secret activists.
Well, the thing is, yeah, but you don't. But what are they secretly doing as activism?
Well, like door dropping.
I mean, it's possible that they're getting leaflets from organisations and going around delivering them. And I mean that I suppose that could be the
case. They might be doing what they're supposed to be doing and writing their own leaflets and not going to the corporations.
I think that's very unlikely. I think that's very unlikely.
It's very likely in Ireland.
But you see, but the thing is, like, for instance, even people that are on social media. I mean, like, if you look at our local vegan group, we've got almost 1,000 members, and probably maybe half of those people live sort of in the local area or nearby, and yet hardly any of those people. And you know, they're not afraid to be on social media or even to say they're vegan on social media, but they're not involved in activism. No, they don't join in on
conundrum, really, isn't it?
They don't join in on activist events. The reason they're not activists, the reason they're not activists isn't because they're frightened to come out as vegans. They have come out as vegans, but they're just not active. They're just vegans, and they carry on. It's much easier, you see. It's much easier these days to live as vegan and slot into normal society. You see, because it's so much easier to operate in society as a vegan than it used to be. You see, so therefore, I think what happens is people kind of tick the vegan box. You see, they say, right, okay, I don't like what's happened to other animals or whatever. I'm gonna become vegan, adopt a vegan diet, and I'm just going to carry on the same as before. And it's much easier to do that these days because you can go out.
You don't accept the argument that, in some senses, anyone who is a vegan, as opposed to plant-based, is also an activist in the sense that they.
Well, I think, yeah. I mean, I think in terms of they may have conversation with other people, and you know, in their personal life, they may change people through that. But you see, we need a situation where we want vegans to do the maximum they can to spread the vegan message, not just the minimum. You know, that's the minimum, isn't it? You're bound to have conversations. You're bound to have people that are curious as to why you're a vegan. And explain that to people. Some of those people might be influenced by that, and that can happen to anyone who's vegan.
Know if people know vegans who actually kind of almost like keep it secret from everybody for some weird reason. I mean, I don't think there can be many of them, but there's bound to be some, isn't there?
I know at least one.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
But
you wouldn't keep it secret from other vegans. There'd be no reason to keep it secret from other vegans, would it?
What's the reason, Andy? Do you know?
So his family are very, very religious. They're all Muslim, and he is also supposed to be a strict Muslim. They also don't know that he's got a drink problem, so it's not the only secret, but that's the main reason.
Well, hang on a second. In terms of Islam, a drink problem and being a vegan is a different thing, surely.
Oh yeah, but what I'm basically saying is it's not just veganism that is a secret, but it is a secret.
Yeah, but why is veganism a secret in that society?
Because he doesn't want the shit, basically, from his family who expect him to live in one particular way.
mean, there's loads of.
We've had this conversation a million times. That yeah, that's where it is. And what he usually says to me is he would much rather have this conversation with me a million more times than this conversation with his mum, dad, brother, and sister, and everyone else once.
So does he? So he obviously doesn't live with them. Otherwise,
No, he doesn't live with them. No. And he doesn't eat there in any way, shape, or form either. I mean, he's a grown adult.
So he kind of avoid. He
Just avoids the subject. Yeah. They quite often will send him food home, and he just puts it in the bin or whatever. But yeah,
so he doesn't eat with them. He obviously has to make an excuse never to have a meal.
Yes. There'll always be, for example, if there's, let's just say, for example, there's some sort of family gathering where they are eating, he'll always turn up late and he always has to leave before everyone else and make sure that they put it in some Tupperware so that he doesn't have to eat it. Yeah, and he's been doing this for 5 years.
Weird.
But at the same time, I know for a fact that if I rang him now in a heartbeat and said, look, there are 2 animals that need liberating, can you come? He would. So there's that element. But yeah, still a secret. Don't tell anyone.
Well, again, it goes to show how complex human beings are, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
He can pretend he's got some. He can pretend he's got some disease.
I mean, in fact, that my dog, Rubble, that's lay next to me, I didn't drive at the time. And so if he hadn't driven me, I wouldn't have been able to rescue him. So, yeah, in those moments, he's always been completely, open. But everything's a secret, yeah.
Is he a practicing Muslim?
No, but his family are, and they think that he is.
Okay, but I mean, he must know. I mean, of all religious texts, I've heard that Torah, whatever it is.
That's Judaism. It's the Quran.
Oh, Quran. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, my ignorance is coming out there. But I mean, that's supposed to be really animal friendly, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I think in reality that it's the other secrets that are far more kind of concerning, and this just got moulded in with the same bunch.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, but it's just an example of someone that's a genuine vegan that would go out and do direct action. However, it's an absolute secret, and there's probably about 3 people on the planet that know. Yeah.
Wow.
Folks, I think we better.
No, I was going to say we have gone a long way over. So unless there was any really pertinent questions we missed, then we'll call it a night.
I haven't seen any, but it's been a good session.
I don't think there was. I think we covered everything.
Apart from
what did we get up to? 72?
Yeah, well, there's still a couple of things to deal with, but I mean, I suppose we might as well start at. Did we jump ahead to 73 or something? Actually?
Yeah, we did. But if you've still got stuff from before that, we can just start with whatever you've got next week if you want.
Well, I didn't want to talk about
that.
I did want to talk about the youth group, which sounds very Ronnie to me. Kind of, we're promising you action and all this kind of stuff. They formed this youth group, and then they were asked to write an article. Because I'm not used to writing articles, but what I can promise you is action and all this kind of stuff. So it was very Ronnie. It was.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm not sure I ever heard of it, to be quite honest.
Tony Williams, yeah.
No, I don't know who that is. No.
Well, no, I mean, it was a year before you went vegan, so.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I did used to know, obviously I knew quite a lot of young people who were vegan, but I don't think they were in that youth group.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about that and see what that means.
Yeah. Okay then. So, see you all same time.
Night, everyone.
No, then. Cheers.
Take care.
Yeah. Bye then. Bye.
Yeah.